Hello and welcome to Let's Review. Last week I looked at the remastering of Homeworld, and it was okay. But, as I said at the time, the remastered collection actually comes with a copy of a remastered version of Homeworld 2 as well. So the question now becomes, does the second one fix the problems of the first, or am I going to be getting more messages telling me I should burn in hell for being so wrong? Well, let's start with the gameplay. Homeworld 2 plays much like the first, but it has been tweaked and altered in a number of important ways.
As before, you command your fleet from this view, though once again, you can zoom out to a slightly more tactical view in order to see the entire map if you wish. It plays much the same as before, where you command a fleet that you construct. So if I look at my build menu, I currently cannot build any interceptor class ships, so that's scouts, interceptors or bombers, for the simple reason that I have the maximum number. Now that number might seem far smaller than it was in the previous game, but if I zoom in, you can now see that bombers and gunships operate in squadrons of up to 5 ships. So if I look at my frigates, I can build a number of them, because I currently have no frigates, or correction, I have one frigate, which if memory serves is a marine frigate, whose primary purpose is to, it's a defense field frigate. Marine frigates can be used to board enemy ships and take them over, and are quite often used in some of the campaign missions to capture certain objectives. As with before, I'm demonstrating with a quite late game mission to demonstrate some of the heavier units that are on offer, so my fleet currently includes a pair of battle cruisers. These are the biggest, most powerful things you can build in this game. I've also got a squadron of destroyers, and I have this dreadnought. That is a plot-specific ship. If I wish to collect some resources, it operates in roughly the same principle as before, so I send my resource collectors over there. However, this time I'm going to use my carrier as a resource drop-off point. I also have a shipyard, which is the only thing that can construct the super heavy units like the battlecruiser. This time they've tweaked a number of aspects, so you have to build various modules on board your different ships in order to make use of them. So if you do not have a fighter facility, you cannot build fighters. This is quite useful when fighting certain classes of enemies, such as their large shipyard vessels, because you can disable their ability to construct units, and thus mitigate their threat significantly. The research system has also been improved, as before you could only use it to create new classes of ship. You can now not only do that, but you can also improve certain things about them. So for example, I will increase the armour and the engines on my battlecruisers. It's fairly limited, and you only tend to get 1 or 2 new research options at the beginning of each mission, but it is at least a little more complicated than it was before. When engaging the enemy, as with a lot of RTS games, you can once again assign units to groups. So I like to assign my fighters to Group 1 and so on and so forth. And everything together in Group 10, which I'm going to place into a formation called Capital Phalanx, which puts my heavy ships to the fore, where they can be used to soak damage, and everything else to the rear, where they can be used to spring forward and attack vulnerable enemy units. And since there are a group of enemies there who are quite vulnerable to my gunships, I'm tempted to send them into attack. However, I will simply move my entire force forward. They will move roughly as one unit, however, if I specifically order Group 2 to move up and attack, they will do. Now Group 2 unsupported will have a few problems with those assault frigates,
Group 1 copies.
So I will assign my bombers to target them.
Attack vector laid in.
Meanwhile, the battle cruisers and my destroyers are already beginning to engage this enemy force, and obviously since the battle cruisers are super heavy units, they can quite happily destroy anything this force throws at them. The only thing that can really go toe-to-toe with the battle cruiser is either the dreadnought, another battle cruiser, or multiple destroyers. And you will notice they are attacking my carrier and the resource collectors near it. Now this destroyer is taking some damage from the bombers, which is exactly why corvettes should be engaging them.
Group 2. Group 1 reporting. Group 4 reporting. Under fire, requesting orders.
Once I have defeated that group of enemies, I will begin moving my fleet towards this, the objective of the mission, which has to be captured with a marine frigate. Marine frigates are used to capture enemy ships, as
Group
you would
2
expect.
reporting.
There are a number of other things you can do. For example, if one of my fighter or bomber squadrons is damaged, I can order it to dock at the carrier. While it is there, it will automatically replace any missing ships and repair the ones that are currently damaged.
Reporting.
So I will now have my battle
Docking
cruisers
signal green.
target that assault frigate, and they will be able to destroy it extremely quickly,
Prepare for assault.
as demonstrated, because frigates just cannot stand up to that kind of firepower.
Under attack.
And you will
What's
notice
the
my
call?
bomber squadron has just
Group 1
relaunched
reports
and has
victory.
been repaired.
Roger.
You can turn off the auto-dock ability so that the units you dock within a carrier will stay there, which can be useful in some missions if you're dealing with fields that disable small ships. And fundamentally, that is it for the gameplay.
The changes here are pretty good, at least partially because I'm fairly certain that they ironed out most of the problems I had with it. I didn't notice any more weird AI bugs and glitches. They sped up the resource collection time as well as the build construction time, so there's a lot less waiting around. And there are not as many obnoxious missions. They're not gone completely, but they are much improved. Take, for example, one mission where you have to be stealthy.
During this mission, you are tasked with reaching an enemy facility over here. Or more exactly, it's a dig site that is temporarily under their control. You are recommended to use a more stealthy approach than usual, because at the moment the enemy has not detected you. The reason for that is you are currently hidden within a dust cloud which obscures sensors. Now it obscures both yours and theirs, though this can be countered through the use of special probes, which can detect even through that.
Intelligence data indicates
It also
greater
has
garrison-
additional objectives there, as you can see. However, you will note that the area in which you are safely hidden is very clearly laid out.
This works better than similar missions in the first one, for the simple reason that it's easy to tell where you need to stay in order to not be detected. Overall, the improvements made to Homeworld 2 make it a pretty damn good RTS experience, largely because it's taking something that was already solid and it irons out the worst of the kinks. It's not flawless, but it is pretty good. The story, on the other hand, oh boy. Set some years, I'm not entirely sure how many, after the end of the first game, the Higarans are once again planning to launch a mothership, this one called the Pride of Higara. Of course, because these ships seem to be cursed, you immediately come under attack from a group who are trying to take your hyperspace core, because apparently it is one of 3 that they need. And this is where the story falls flat on its face, because it takes a potentially interesting sci-fi universe and shoehorns in one of my least favourite cliches. Quasi-religious elements. Let me guess. Some ancient being created these cores? Yeah. And there is some prophecy about a great reward for reuniting them? Yep. And the villain seeks to do this and set themselves up as some sort of god? I'm not entirely sure. He's only got like 3 lines of dialogue, so it's kind of tricky to tell, but I think that's his plan. And it is left extremely vague as to whether or not this is all due to some advanced technology or simply the will of some divine being. Really vague, yeah. Why do people like the stories of these games again? I honestly have no idea. One person did say that the lack of characters who have an effect on the grand cosmic scale of things is part of the point. But given how much this game talks up the Pride of Higara's human CPU becoming a god at the end, that point seems a little moot. The Bentusi from the last game also turn up, now with a bigger ship, and apparently they're the last of their race now for some reason. Wasn't too sure about that. And do they sacrifice themselves in some contrived manner? Yeah. Was this thing written with the aid of the 2003 edition of the Complete Hack's Guide to Sci-Fi Sequels? I think it was the 2001 edition, you know, the one with the pop-up segment about love triangles? Oh, please tell me there are none of those in this game. No. That would require them to have characters. I did not like the plot of Homeworld 1, and Homeworld 2 has all of the same problems with even more piled on top. And any sense of scale is lost because you never see a person. For all I can tell, the Pride of Higara could be about this big and crewed by ants. I feel the need to state once again that this is a review, and as such, it is an opinion piece. If you want to have your own opinions, you are of course entitled to them. But in my personal view, the story of this game is terrible. The art style for this game is pretty much the same as the first, and that means that it's still basically fine. There's nothing really wrong with it, but it still has the same issue that I had before, namely that the alien ships just don't feel very alien. You know, the ancient ones in particular, I feel like more could have been done to really make them seem special. As it stands, the design's just a little generic. It's not bad by any means, but I feel there was a missed opportunity there. The graphical overhaul continues to be excellent. The ships look good, the backgrounds look better, and overall there were no serious technical issues that I encountered. At the end of the day, the remastering of both Homeworld and Homeworld 2 has done a pretty excellent job, and ultimately I suspect that's what most people wanted from this remastering. Oh, the music for this game. The music continues to be the only thing about Homeworld that I can definitively say that I absolutely love. It is just gorgeous. The voice acting continues to be ho-hum in my eyes. There was one person commented to say that they actually prefer the slightly flatter style of 90s and early 2000s voiceover work as opposed to the more highly emotive, have to feel everything style that's favoured these days. And I can certainly understand that point, but personally I think Homeworld is a little too far in the other direction, heading towards bland. If you like that style, fair enough, but I think there's a happy medium to be found, and I think Homeworld 2 overshoots that a bit. So to my mind, the voiceover work is a bit dull. So, did I enjoy Homeworld 2 Remastered? If I completely ignore the story, then yes. Should you buy it? Let's be honest about this. If you're a Homeworld fan, then you already own a copy. And if you're like me and have never played the originals, then I think my recommendation has to be not at this price. While there are certainly elements to enjoy about it, it also has a lot of problems. And while the remastering has done an excellent job of updating the graphics and making it run smoothly, they haven't fixed many of those original problems. As a result, it's a game series that feels a little uneven, and ultimately, I think if you don't care about the story, then you can probably buy this and have a great deal of fun with it, as it is a very solid space-based RTS. But if you're like me and you feel that the story is one of the most important elements of a game, then Homeworld will just end up being a massive disappointment to you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I feel the need for a really good space-based fleet story. So I am going to go reread this. I will see you later.